We're sitting here in Richmond, Virginia this afternoon visiting a little bit with Jim Jump, who in the first decade of the 21st century has probably had more responsibility to deal with in the life of Potomac and Chesapeake AC and NACAC than anybody else I can think of. 3 or maybe 2.5 presidential cycles in Potomac and Chesapeake and 1 at the national level. And it just brings us a wealth of experience from a long career in the counseling profession. One of the things I think we'd like to hear Jim talk about this afternoon is some of his reflections on how, from an early involvement with Potomac and Chesapeake, he's seen the organization grow and mature over time. Jim?
I think I've been involved in Potomac and Chesapeake since the mid-'70s when I was a rookie admissions officer. And I was one of those who did not plan to stay in the profession at all. I was going to do it for 2 or 3 years, and yet I remember very clearly the first PCACAC conference I ever went to was in Richmond at the University of Richmond. The one time we had it on a college campus.
In the dorms.
In the dorms, and even then I knew there was something special about this group. I really liked the people, and I felt like, gee, it's too bad I won't be doing this for a career. So I think that I've seen over the last 15 years, I think PCACAC has matured into what I would call a middle-aged organization. We went for a long time, well, up to 15 years ago, we had a treasurer, but we didn't have a budget. Our treasurer wrote checks. We always seemed to have enough money, but there was never any planning for what would that mean. Similarly, we had conferences, and the conferences were successful, but in terms of planning or the organizational structure wasn't there, and I think that has changed. I remember a car ride I took with Jennifer Blair and Arlene Ingram in Dallas at NACAC LDI. We were trying to get out of the hotel because we had a Mary Kay convention sharing it with us, and we just needed to get out. So we were driving around Dallas looking for Jerry Jones's house, and during the middle of the car ride, we started talking about PCACAC and our feeling that PCACAC was kind of, if you ranked the affiliates in NACAC, that we were in the middle tier. We weren't a weak organization, but there were certainly 4 or 5 that were more prominent than we are. I think one of the things I'm proudest of over the last 10 to 15 years is that I think now if you ask people around the country, they would see Potomac and Chesapeake as one of the leading affiliates. And I think part of that is the quality of leadership. You look at people like Arlene and Sue Rexford and Evelyn White and Audrey Hill and Joe Monty and lots and lots of people who've been involved at the national level. The quality of leadership we've produced has been pretty extraordinary, and I think as we have, as our organization's gotten bigger, we have put together the infrastructure that helps us be more effective. But it took a while to get to that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of talk at the conference here thus far about financial challenges that impact our profession, both in terms of funding for schools and costs of college, coupled with a population of college-bound students that's becoming more needy. Do you see any other particular challenges ahead for our profession beyond the financial one, and perhaps some areas of professional ethics and so forth around the bend that we're going to have to deal with?
Well, I think a lot of the issues are corollary issues to the financial problems. I think, or the financial issues. As college admissions becomes more of a business, that's going to lead to the ethical issues. That's going to lead to are we focused on revenue streams? Are we focused on improving our profile, or are we focused on counseling kids? So the classic question of are we a business, are we a profession? At one time, I thought that was an either-or question. I don't think that's an either-or question anymore. I think now it's clear that we are at least in some sense a business, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think the question is, are we going to be only a business, or are we going to serve a larger purpose and be a profession? So I think that's an ongoing question. I think the biggest challenge we're going to have the next 10 years is that the the college-going population is going to change in dramatic ways. I think they're going to be prepared in different ways than students have been traditionally, and that's going to put an emphasis on, or challenge us in terms of how we recruit students, how we evaluate transcripts, and how we make them successful once they're in college. I'm not sure, I know we've had some discussions about that, I'm not sure we're prepared for how significant a change that's going to be.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of talk in some quarters about colleges need to be more of a business, run more like a business, and on the other side, concerns that we're losing sight of some of the most valuable academic dimensions of a four-year undergraduate degree in the face of other kinds of demands from our potential student population and their parents in terms of their expectations of campuses.
Yeah, I think we're going to be asked to defend what we do and who we are in a way that we haven't been before. I think part of that is you have a new generation of parent that wants evidence. They're not as trusting of institutions of any kind. I think that some of the fundamental assumption behind higher education has always been that it's worth the investment because you will see the payoff in terms of employment and better jobs. Depending on what happens to our economy, this generation of graduates may not be able to assume that in the same way, which then challenges families. How much debt are you willing to go into? And so I think the value proposition, and also what is the essence of a college education, what is the value of it, I think we're going to have to articulate that in ways that we have not before because we've assumed that everybody understood it. I don't think people will understand it at the same level.
Mm-hmm. How do you see what we've been hearing in recent days from the College Board about the, quote, new SAT and standardized testing issue in general as a part of the admissions selection process?
I guess my first suspicion is always that there is a profit motive in the nonprofit College Board whenever they change the test. That at least part of it, what is the worry about losing market share to ACT and other things, which I think is legitimate. I think some of what they're talking about in terms of trying to tie standardized testing more to what happens in the classroom, I think is defensible. How that will play out remains to be seen. For me, the larger issue is one of, are we measuring the right things, period? The standardized testing is a measure of ability, and ability is important. I think certainly with some of the demographic changes we're facing, the bigger issue is going to be what are the non-cognitive skills that make people successful, and I think we need to get more of a handle on the grit issue or the persistence issue, or if I could design a test of motivation, I could put the College Board out of business. Oh, they'd buy me out. But I think that's the real long-term issue: is can we figure out the things that really lead to success, and can we find a way to measure them in ways that we have not before?
Mm-hmm. Back some 25 years ago, one of our speakers at conference was Douglas Heath.
I remember.
Who has devoted a career to investigating how young people mature in a liberal arts environment. That's certainly linked at the college end to some of the issues that you just raised.
Well, and I also think it's linked to one of the things that I'm most concerned about. I think that the college decision is such an important developmental stage for young people. And we tend to focus on where are you going to go. I think the process of how you make the decision is a measure of readiness for college. And I'm afraid that we're taking away from kids the time that it requires to mature and make those decisions as colleges are asking for things earlier and earlier. And I feel this way particularly because I deal with boys. They're having to make decisions before they're ready. So for us, the classical question is, how do we make boys mature faster? And when I figure that one out, I will be, on the circuit explaining it. I don't think I'll figure that one out.
All right. Jim, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your time with us this afternoon. We really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
are you up for another presidential cycle somewhere down the road?
No. 3 strikes and you're out.